Welcome in to Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Happy game day, Steelers Nation. Steelers versus Bengals. First primetime game for the Steelers this year here in Week 7 as they get ready to take on the Cincinnati Bengals tonight with a chance to get a commanding lead over the rest of the AFC North. Heading into a mini bye week. I mean, another thing that's kind of going unnoticed right now, I think, is that the Steelers, they could win tonight, get to 5-1, and then as they approach this really critical 3-game stretch that they have coming up versus the Packers on Sunday Night Football, then you've got the Colts, and then you've got the Chargers on primetime football as well, all in a row. It'd be really nice to get a win tonight. It'd be really nice to get to 5-1 and give yourself a nice 4-game cushion above 500 and a nice cushion in the division. I believe if you win tonight, you're up 3.5 games on the rest of the division, and you're up 4 games versus the Baltimore Ravens at this point, because the Baltimore Ravens are now on their bye week. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're going to be going live on this channel. Me and Ponzi will be live at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Over an hour of pregame coverage. We'll talk about not only the recent Steelers trade rumors that are really starting to kick into gear here just a couple weeks before the NFL trade deadline. Let you guys know the very latest on that, but also preview tonight's game between the Steelers and Bengals, keys to victory, roster breakdown, inactives, all that stuff. Get yourself ready for the game tonight with our pregame show, and then we'll be live during the game for our live play-by-play and live analysis coverage, and then we've got our extensive post-game coverage as well after the game. We have the largest live Steelers watch parties anywhere on the YouTube platform. Over 100,000 people watch these live shows every single week. So if you guys want to come hang out, watch the game with us, and talk Steelers ball with us all throughout the night, make sure you guys click that subscribe button and join us at 7 p.m. Eastern Time later this evening. But I wanted to get in front of a camera here today, guys, before the ball gets kicked off in Cincinnati. Talk about some of the latest updates that we got from the final injury report yesterday and kind of what those updates mean for this football game and how those injury statuses affect this football game. And the big surprise yesterday, guys, for the Pittsburgh Steelers in particular, was that starting strong safety DeShon Elliott did not travel with the team to Cincinnati this week. He's dealing with a personal issue right now, and he's currently questionable to play tonight. Now, I'm sure as the day goes on, it's possible that when you're seeing this, they've made a decision whether or not Elliott is going to be able to make it or not. It's not an injury thing; it's a personal thing. So whatever DeShon and potentially his family is going through right now, hopefully DeShon is okay, and hopefully everyone in his family is okay. Our thoughts and prayers go out to him. Hopefully everything's all right with DeShon in his life. But it certainly makes an impact on the Pittsburgh Steelers tonight if he cannot go. DeShon is such an important piece to this defense because he's such a crafty blitzer. He's a great communicator. His versatility as both a coverage player and as a run defender, like he is one of the most valuable defensive players, certainly in the Steelers secondary, but I would say in the Steelers defense, period. And you can just take a look at the way that the Steelers defense kind of adjusted their scheme from when he was in the last 2 weeks versus when he was out, really pretty much the entirety of the first 3 weeks of the season, the first 3 games. And, they kind of went from a heavy base defense without him in there because they didn't really trust any of other, players in their secondary to play the run as well as DeShon does. And then when he was able to come back in for that Dublin game, the entire Steelers defensive structure seemed to completely switch, where they went from a lot of 5-man fronts, a lot of base formations, which would mean that the Steelers were playing slower and teams could really take advantage of them through the air. Putting DeShon out there has allowed this team to kind of go to a more nickel-based defense with big nickel, with, of course, Jalen Ramsey being that big nickel. And, they're blitzing a bunch of different players. They're putting a lot of people at the line of scrimmage. They're kind of sending some of these exotic blitz looks, and they're not allowing quarterbacks to kind of have a good picture pre-snap of exactly how many players are coming on a blitz and how many players are dropping into coverage. And then you take into account Elliott's ability to make tackles. He's one of the best tacklers in the league, one of the best run defenders at the safety position in the league. He is a very big piece of this Steelers defense, and we have seen this defense not play their best football when he is not in the lineup. He is a significant piece. Now, what I will say is that this defense with DeShon Elliott out in week 3 versus the Patriots was pretty decent, especially against the run, right? They forced fumbles, all that stuff. And I think a big reason why they were able to play better in week 3 without Elliott versus week 1 and week 2 when they were playing mostly without Elliott is because of Jabril Peppers. And it seems to me that Peppers would be the replacement for DeShon tonight if he's unable to go. And, in terms of guys in this league that are backups that I would trust to start a game at strong safety, Jabril Peppers would probably be close to the top of my list. He, like Elliott, is a really crafty player with a lot of experience. He can play in coverage. He can play really well in run defense. He's not quite as reliable as a tackler as Elliott is, but he's pretty darn good in that regard. And he's got some really good athleticism. He's a great communicator. He's a smart football player. So honestly, if DeShon Elliott can't go tonight and Jabril Peppers is the one that's picking up the slack there, I still feel very confident in this Steelers defense's ability to get after Joe Flacco tonight, to get him to make some mistakes, capitalize and make some big plays happen on the defensive side of the ball. So obviously we're hoping DeShon, whatever he's going through right now is not as serious where he can't play tonight. But if that is the case, and the fact that he didn't make the trip to Cincinnati certainly doesn't look great for his chances to play tonight, I do feel good about Jabril Peppers' ability to play strong safety in this defense. I'm also really liking what I'm seeing from Juan Thornhill in recent weeks because of his just pure aggressive nature at free safety. He hits hard. He's an enforcer. Teams and receivers do not want to go over the middle of the field because they know Thornhill is in the middle of this defense, ready to lay the boom if they are in the wrong position, or if the quarterback throws them the football over the middle of the field at the wrong time. So I kind of like the safety duo and the safety situation that the Steelers have right now, and then I really like the nickel situation we have here in Pittsburgh with Jalen Ramsey. So hopefully DeShon can go tonight, but if not, I think the Steelers are in good hands. Don't think that will be too much of a dip in terms of defensive production, whether he plays or not. But then kind of expected here, but now confirmed, Calvin Austin III, a wide receiver, is going to be out this week, still dealing with that shoulder injury. But according to Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Calvin is expected to be back for Sunday Night Football's matchup in Week 8 versus the Green Bay Packers. So that's good news, and who knows, maybe even the Steelers will have another wide receiver to pair with DK Metcalf and Calvin Austin III by that game, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself there. But Calvin not being out there tonight, I think obviously means once again we're going to see lots of heavy personnel from the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's not something that's necessarily a surprise. I expect probably Scotty Miller yet again to get more snaps than Roman Wilson, just like he did last week. Personally, I would like to see the Steelers give Roman, more opportunities. I thought he ran some pretty good routes, and he was open more than once last week in his 8 passing snaps. He only got the ball once, and he caught the football and he got open, and he got some yardage after the catch, got 12 yards and a first down. So Scotty Miller gave you nothing last week. He didn't even get a single target. With all due respect to Scotty Miller, you drafted Roman Wilson in the 3rd round. At some point you got to try and see what you got in him, and it just doesn't seem like the Steelers want to put him out there for whatever reason. Maybe they feel like he doesn't understand the offense at a high level. Maybe they feel like they just don't trust him enough. I don't know what the issue is there, but the route running looked fine to me from Roman Wilson last week. So hopefully Roman gets more opportunities tonight, kind of show what he can do, and maybe even try and fend off the Steelers from trading for a receiver. That would be great if you could hold on to all of your draft picks and not feel a need to have to go out and get another receiver here. But with just the way that the Steelers are using him this season and how they're very much not using him much at all, it certainly seems like the Steelers will probably be going after a wide receiver trade in the days and weeks to come before the NFL trade deadline, and getting Calvin back in time for this 3-game stretch that's coming up versus teams that many people consider to be at least playoff contenders, but some people consider teams like the Packers and Colts, and some even believe the Chargers are a Super Bowl caliber team. If you can go into those games with Calvin, DK, and then maybe even another kind of veteran piece in there, maybe a Jacoby Myers, maybe a Rashid Shaheed, maybe a Chris Olave, maybe somebody else, that would be something that would be pretty good for the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion. So hopefully somebody else can step up. But more realistically, I think we're going to see a lot of Darnell Washington again tonight. I think we're going to see a lot of the jumbo personnel packages that we've seen the last 2 weeks. I think we're going to see I think we'll even see a little bit more Pat Freiermuth tonight, and I think we'll see quite a bit of Jonnu Smith as well. So we'll see what the offensive game plan looks like tonight, but Calvin will not be a part of it. And then the final thing I want to talk about here before I say goodbye, at least for now, is that Trey Hendrickson is questionable to play tonight with a hip injury. Of course, he's the star pass rusher for the Cincinnati Bengals. He has killed the Steelers in recent matchups. And plain and simply, guys, if he doesn't play tonight, this Cincinnati Bengals defense is in trouble. I think outside of Hendrickson, maybe you can say DJ Turner's the only high-end starter on this team. Turner has actually played really well on tape this year. He's their number one corner. But outside of him, man, it's been a rough go for their linebackers. It's been a rough go for their safeties. It's been a rough go for the rest of their defensive line. So, plain and simply, guys, if Trey Hendrickson doesn't go tonight, it's going to be tough for this Bengals defense to keep up with the size and strength, in my opinion, that the Steelers offensive line and also, their jumbo personnel packages in terms of their tight ends are going to be able to bring to the table. Jaylen Warren, I think, is going to be able to make people miss tonight. Same thing with DK Metcalf. Jonnu Smith could have a nice night running after the catch. It just seems to me like, especially with a smart quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, I just think that this offense is going to have a really good night tonight. I would not be surprised if they get over 30 points for the second time this season tonight. And that would be a very good thing. So, I don't know if Trey Hendrickson is going to play tonight at this point. I'm sure we'll get an update as the day goes on, but it's a hip injury, and he had to be carted off to the locker room last week when they played the Green Bay Packers. So I just don't know if I really see, that quick of a turnaround where you're going from not being able to walk to the locker room to playing 4 days later. It's just, I feel like the Bengals are kind of just saying he's questionable to try and, get the Steelers to, think that he is going to play, but I would kind of doubt that Trey Hendrickson plays tonight. I could be wrong on that. Maybe that hip injury is good enough to go. But even if he does go, guys, having that hip injury and looking as bad as it kind of was on Sunday, I would be a little surprised if he was an impact on this football game, if he was able to give it a go. It certainly helps out Broderick Jones's job tonight in terms of, his assignment, whether it is Hendrickson in front of him or whether it's Miles Murphy. I guess we'll have to see on that. But, I do think, guys, heading into this matchup, and I don't want to, count my chickens before they hatch. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Obviously, the Steelers need to take care of business tonight. But I do feel good about this matchup. I know the history of Mike Tomlin and on Thursday night games on the road, and I know his history, especially in divisional games on the road in this kind of Thursday night setting. I understand all that history, but you just look at this matchup on paper, and there's just no excuse for the Steelers to not be able to move the football tonight. There's no excuse for them not to put up points tonight. There's no excuse for them not to get after the quarterback. There's no excuse for them to not be able to, stop this passing attack that Cincinnati's going to come out in today. I just feel like this is a matchup that really benefits the Pittsburgh Steelers, and as long as the Steelers don't do the stupid kind of mistakes that they did in their lone loss this year, which was against Seattle, right? As long as Caleb Johnson isn't giving away a free touchdown in the end zone, as long as, Calvin Austin doesn't tip the ball up in the air right to a Seattle Seahawks defender, as long as these kind of dumb mistakes that take points off the board for the Steelers and put points on the board for the Bengals happen, I don't really see the Bengals having a shot in this football game. Now, I could be wrong on that. We'll see how Joe Flacco does tonight. Maybe magically Joe Flacco is just an amazing quarterback and he's throwing lasers to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and all these guys. But even then, I think that the Steelers secondary is well built to go up against Cincinnati. They went out and got Jalen Ramsey specifically to guard Jamar Chase in this Bengals offense, and then you got Joey Porter Jr., a long physical corner that's really well built to go up against T. Higgins. So hopefully we don't see the holding penalties that we've seen from Joey Porter Jr. on T. Higgins in recent games against Cincinnati. But plain simply, man, this Steelers team has been extremely competitive against this Bengals team, even when they've had Joe Burrow in the past. I don't expect that to be any different today. And the fact that they don't have Joe Burrow, I think, really elevates the chances of a Steelers victory tonight. So hopefully that's the case, because obviously if you win tonight, you got a commanding lead over the AFC North, almost midway through the NFL season. You've got 5-1 record. You've got a nice cushion here as you kind of embark on this really critical litmus test of a 3-game stretch coming up. You get a mini bye week to prepare for that big stretch. I think that the vibes will be very high tonight if the Steelers take care of business. So hopefully that ends up happening. Again, guys, we'll be live tonight starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, over an hour pregame coverage, live play-by-play and game analysis, and then extensive post-game coverage. So if you don't want to miss any of that, you want to have some fun tonight, we're going to be giving away a Steelers jersey. We're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff on the show tonight. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'll see you guys later tonight. And until then, here we go, Steelers.